Thank you.
You sure he's in focus?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Great American Outdoor Show. Thank you for coming. I don't know if you all know, but several years ago, this show was canceled. And since then, the NRA has come in, they've taken over the show, and the NRA has done a great job with this show. It is primarily a gun and hunting show. But this is our fishing hall, and I must tell you that the fishing hall has improved since last year. And I'm excited to say that the NRA does come by. They talk to us at our booth. The show management has come by. They've talked to us at our booth, and they've asked us about the show, how's it going, and that's an improvement. And the NRA has done a great job at that. Another thing they came out with this year is they came out with this little pamphlet. And if you don't have it, I have some up here. Now this pamphlet has a map on one side, and on the back side they have a seminar schedule. I see you looking through the book right there. That's a little bit cumbersome. This is nice and handy. It works out very well, and I think that's a great improvement the NRA has done. So they're up here. They're for free if you want them, and feel free to take them. My name is Rod Bates, and I'm the owner of Koinonia Guide Service. And Koinonia, how many of you have heard the term Koinonia? Okay, a few of you, all right. Koinonia is a Greek term for fellowship. We are a Christian-based organization, and I endeavor to run our business based on biblical principles. We've been blessed in many ways. The first and foremost is I've been saved by the grace of God and the blood and righteousness of my Lord Jesus Christ. In addition to that, I've been blessed with a wonderful Christian spouse who supports me and helps me in my business and tolerates a crazy schedule that I keep. And it can be very aggressive at times. So I'm very thankful for that. I've had the opportunity to come to shows like this, talk to folks about fishing. I've had the opportunity to guide many people, run trips to Venezuela, Costa Rica, Alaska. Through those experiences, I've had the opportunity to catch world record fish. So I've had a lot of experience. I have wonderful sponsors like Plano Tackle, Team Catfish, Bass Pro Shops, Mercury, Pradco Fishing Systems, Plano Tackle System. I have local sponsors like Snyder Jet Boats, Winco Custom Lures, Sick Custom Baits. And I say that just to encourage you to try our business, because if these national corporations have faith in us and trust us with their products, you can also have faith in us to bring your family members out, your kids, your grandkids, your business associates, and trust them to have a good time with us. Having these affiliations that we have, it allows us to expose you to new and innovative products, new and innovative techniques. And we're going to tell you what works and what doesn't work. And it comes from our experience. So I'm very proud to be associated with the sponsors that we have. As I said, we're going to talk about catfishing on the Susquehanna River. The Susquehanna River has a wonderful population of catfish. We have bullheads, we got channel cats, and we got flatheads. By far, the biggest percentage of catfish in our river is the channel cats. If you want to get the kids out and show them a really good time, learn some of these techniques that we're going to talk about, go to Team Catfish, look at their videos, go to our website, look at some of our videos, and you can go out here in the Susquehanna River and catch a tremendous amount of channel cats. They're fun to catch, they put up a great battle, and they're also very tasty. Channel cats are kind of rounded compared to the flatheads. Channel cats have a forked tail, and they're going to be found in all depths. We catch them as low as a foot of water up to 25 feet of water. So we talked about how many are out there. Last year, my boat caught 1,014 channel cats. Now, for the past 3 years, when I catch a channel cat, I'll take the dorsal fin and I'll take a pair of scissors and I'll just snip it so it opens it into a V. So it's very obvious when I catch a fish, I know if we've caught that fish before. After we catch it one time, we'll then mark the pectoral fin on the right and then on the left. Now for 3 years I've been marking fish. So we have probably 2,500 over 3,000 fish that are marked out there. Of the 1,014 fish we caught this year, only 13 have been caught more than once. Now remember, I'm taking clients to the same GPS waypoints over and over and over because I know those spots produce fish. So if we've caught that many fish and only 13 twice, imagine how many fish are out there. So it's a really good thing for you guys to get involved with. It's a channel catfishing. Get the kids involved. They're going to catch fish and have a great time. When you catch a channel cat, they don't have teeth, but when you reach in their lip, it feels like sandpaper. The biggest thing with a channel cat is their pectoral fins. Any fish that's 13 inches or down, that thing is like a needle. And if it gets you, it's going to give you a little pinprick, a little drop of blood, but then it's going to burn. So always carry antiseptic because you're nodding your head. You've been stuck before that, obviously. Okay. So only once. Very good. I wish I could say that. Yeah. Team Catfish fish grippers. On these channel cats, I would much rather stick my hand, my two hands actually, into a 20-pound flathead and handle him and stick my thumb in the mouth of a 5-pound channel cat. Their jaws are so strong, they're going to squeeze down on you, and it will hurt. Team Catfish fish grippers, these are phenomenal. We use them for everything. Muskie, walleye, I've had them down in the Bahamas, handling dolphin and wahoo. These things are great. It helps you to control the fish. If you do mess up, forget to put it on your wrist. It will float if it goes in the river. These things are rounded so they don't hurt the fish. In the past, I've used the metal grippers. I'm not going to say manufacturers, but those metal ones, when you're handling a 30-pound fish, you can actually tear through the skin. So these are rounded, they work fantastic. I'd encourage you to carry them, particularly if you're dealing with any toothy critter, walleye, muskie, and these channel cats. In addition to that, a jaw spreader comes in very handy. These things are very compact, they're economical. Pick them up at Bass Pro, slide it into the jaw of the fish, rotate it, just let it unsnap, and it's going to hold the jaw open for you. That makes it easy to use your pliers and get in there. When we fish sudden impact, I'm using treble hooks. So sometimes the treble hooks get stuck on the sides and the bottom, might have 2 treble hooks in them. Use these, it's going to be very helpful to you. On the channel cats, it's very easy to convert to channel cat fishing. It's not like you have to go out and buy a lot of specialized gear. Basically, I use my bass gear. I like to fish about a 7-foot rod. I'm fishing 17-pound test fluorocarbon. At the end of my fluorocarbon line, I'm going to slide an egg sinker. That slides. As that slides, it's going to bang your knot. In order to protect your knot, I use a Team Catfish sinker bumper. It's a rubber round disc, slides through your line. Now every time that sinker hits that line, it's protecting that knot for you. And that's important. Then I have a swivel. Attached to that swivel is a leader. My leader is going to be 2 to 3 feet to start. As you catch fish, you're going to be breaking off, the line's going to get snagged. This leader is going to continue to get shorter on you. Okay? The fish will tell you something. I don't care what species it is, if you pay attention to what you're doing, you're going to learn something. Classic example about leaders. Had a gentleman out, and we went channel cat fishing, and he loved it. Thought it was fantastic. He called me back and he said, hey, I love that. I bought all my own gear. I copied everything you have in your boat. I got the sudden impact, the fluorocarbon leader, our line, everything. Can I come out one more trip? I want to bring my stepson, and I want to use my gear though. I said, absolutely, I don't have a problem with that. So he shows up, and we get in the boat, and we go out and throw our lines out using the Team Catfish sudden impact. Within a couple minutes, we got a fish on. Bring it in. Throw back out, boom. A couple minutes, we got a fish on. Throw out a third time, boom, we got a fish on. And the client says to me, hey, why are we only catching fish on your rod? I got 3 rods here and only one's catching fish. Is that the only spot the fish are? I said, no, highly improbable. Bring one of those rods in. So he brought a rod in. We're fishing 4 rods out the back. He brings the rod in on the outside left. This rod was catching fish on the outside right. He brings it in. I said, let's look at the rig. We look at it. Same weight. Same sinker bumper, swivel. However, his leader was a foot longer than mine. I said, the only thing I see different is that leader. Let's cut some off that leader. cut that leader off to match my rod, immediately started getting bites. It didn't take us long for the fish to tell us what we needed to do. Brought the other two rods in real quick, changed the leader, started catching fish. So the fish will tell you something. Pay attention to what they're going to tell you. In order to use sudden impact, I'm using a number 6 or a number 4 treble hook. I prefer a number 4. Team Catfish sudden impact, you buy the container, it's going to tell you right on here what to use. It's going to tell you number 6. Either one will work fine. When I'm in colder water, I want to use a smaller ball bait. I might go to a smaller hook. I might go to the 6. I carry both in the tackle box. Now, you probably won't do this your first couple times of using sudden impact, but once you believe in it like I do, you will too. I pinch my barbs down. Now you're saying, well, I might lose fish that way. You may, but on the other hand, when you get two or three of these hooks in a fish, it's much easier to get it out. It's easier on the fish if the barbs aren't on there. So I pinch them down. How you use sudden impact. This is called a fiber bait. They also make a Secret 7, and Secret 7 is a dip bait. A dip bait, you use a tube, a dip tube, or a furry things that'll help hold the bait. I'm going to ask you guys to pass this around. Don't stick your nose in it. Don't stick your fingers in it. Unless you want it to last, I'll show. Pass that around. That is a cheese-based product. Comes out of Grove, Oklahoma, Team Catfish. You can buy it locally here at Hook, Line, and Sinker in the 2700 aisle, Bass Pro Shops. Buy it online from Team Catfish. I basically take that bait. I got myself a paddle. This is made out of aluminum. I stick that bait into the fiber bait and I wrap it around the hook. Just wrap it live around it. That fibers, I want it to twist around that hook. You can even bring it up the line some. Now we're fishing the river, so we're fishing current. So that bait will dissipate off of that hook. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just going to put a trend sail out there, or a scent trail out there. Put it out there for 5 minutes. If you're not getting bit, bring those lines in, check them. There's going to still be bait on there, but it may be down. Freshen it up. Throw them back out there. Give it 5 more minutes. If you're not getting bit, guys and gals, move. This bait is that good that I actually use it as a search bait. You think a search bait, that's bass fishing. Spinnerbait, crankbait, something I can cover a lot of water quickly. That's true. I can do the same thing with this bait. I had 2 outdoor writers with me and I explained to them, I'm going to show you sudden impact as a search bait. And they said, I thought we were catfishing. I said, we are, trust me. So we go to the ramp, we're on the river, and I don't want to go to spots I have GPS. I want to present to them just as though I was a stranger fishing this bait on a strange water. So we ride around, I'm looking on the sonar. I'm looking for any irregularities. If the river is generally 5 foot, I'm looking for a depression. I'm looking for a submerged tree. I'm looking for a deep pocket behind a boulder, something like that. So we're out there and I'm idling around. I see a spot, I put down the anchor. I set up, I get 4 rods out the back, and the outdoor rider climbs up in the back seat, he sits down, he starts to get comfortable. 5 minutes go by, I said, let's go, we're moving. He's like, I just got comfortable. I know, but we're using it as a search bait. I want to show you something. Bring the lines in. Went to another spot, same deal. No fish in 5 minutes, we left. Went to the 3rd spot, within 2 minutes we had a fish in the boat. And then I explained to him, that's what I mean about a search bait. Do not sit in a hole with this bait for a half hour waiting for the fish to come to you. Will they? Probably will, because you're creating a scent trail. And I even talked to Jeff Williams, the owner of Team Catfish, about that. I said, Jeff, if I'm on fish and I'm catching fish and they stop, shouldn't I maybe use this in a chum pot or something to attract them in? And he said, let me ask you a question. When you're riding around, are you spending much time finding fish? I said, no, sir, I'm not. He said, then why do you want to waste time waiting there to attract fish to you when you can go move in 15 minutes time, try 3 or 4 different spots and find active fish? So will it work as a chum bait in a chum pot? Absolutely. But it's so good it's not necessary to do that. Find the active fish. Do not sit there a long time with this bait because it is not necessary. So you all got to smell that? Did you get back here yet? Still out there roaming? Okay. Okay, great. I'll put a lid on it for you. Somebody ate it. It disappeared. Go to Team Catfish, watch some of their videos. Go to my website, watch some of our videos. I've had this bait out last winter with icebergs floating past us, and we were catching channel cats with this bait. All right, fluorocarbon line, the importance of that is less visible to the fish. 17-pound test fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon is abrasion resistant, more so than your mono. Any questions on channel cats? They are good to eat as well. No questions on channel cats? All right, let's move on to the big boys. Now we're going to talk about flathead. Same deal, okay? Fish gripper. If not, and you're reaching into the mouth of a flathead, when he throws his tail and he twists, you're going to get brush burn right across the top of that. Definitely will happen. Jaw spreaders, not as important with the flatheads because they ain't got big heads on them, big mouths on them. Basically, the flathead is going to have a wide head on him. It's going to be sloped down, and his tail is going to be rounded where the channel cat is going to be a forked tail. Flatheads in the river, on an average trip, you're going to catch fish. An average flathead is 5 pounds. And every time you're out there, you have the potential to catch a 15, 20-pound fish. Flatheads last year, in my boat, we had a dozen over 20 pounds and 2 over 30 pounds. So they are out there. Same deal with the flatheads, we marked them as well. I didn't break it down. I don't have the specifics with me of how many of those were caught out of the 13 that were caught with the ones. Flatheads from June, July, August, most of September, they're mainly nocturnal. However, we have a training video up on our website, and Team Catfish actually picked it up. So Team Catfish on their videos, it's there. And you're going to see, I think it was in May, it was in the daytime, but the river was like 10, 11 foot high and muddy, and it was kind of overcast. So if you have high muddy water and overcast conditions, don't be afraid to start early on those flatheads. We run a combo trip, which basically is channel cats and flatheads. We're going to go for the channel cats first, and I don't care any time of the day or night you can catch channel cats. So we'll start them, but before dark, I definitely want to be set up in the areas where the flatheads are, and I want to set up before dark, get you acclimated with the area before it gets dark. Fishing at night, please take somebody with you. Had a guide trip last summer, and we're fishing in a spot, and our boats are custom built Snyder jet boats. They have a ½ inch of ultra high molecular weight plastic on the bottom. Basically, if I have an inch of water, I can power over with my jet. I had a particular area that was very productive. Channel cats were maybe 100 yards from where I was catching my flathead. Very difficult spot to get into. For 2.5 years, I fished that hole and had never had anybody in it. This one particular trip, till we get there, there's a gentleman sitting there in about a 12-foot boat, and he's sitting in the back of that boat with his gas tank and his motor, and his boat's sitting like this. I was shocked to see him there. I said to my clients, I sure hope he gets out of here before dark. So we go upriver to a spot where we're fishing, and the back right rod has a flathead on it, and he goes underneath a rock, which they have a tendency to do. So we can't move that fish. We can move him, but we can't get him out. All of a sudden, the back left-hand rod goes. That rod goes down, this client's fighting the fish. I begin to hear a faint noise. It's coming closer and closer. So I get the spotlight out and I shine it over, and here that little boat's come up in the dark. So I shine the light so he knows where we are. He crosses in front of us. This guy's fighting the fish, and next thing I know, he crosses it. If I'm sitting here, he comes over in front of me. Next thing I hear is, I'm going down, I'm going down. Got the spotlight, I shine it on him, and sure enough, his boat's 80% underwater and he's floating. He didn't have his life jacket on, he's all by himself. So he grabs a life jacket under this arm, life jacket under this arm. I tell that guy, quit playing around, get that fish in the boat. I tell this guy, start getting the rods in. What am I going to do with this when it's hung up? Don't worry about it, the clicker's on. Get the rods in the boat. We got 2 anchors, we get them in the boat. Get the fish in the boat, throw them on the bottom of the deck. Hold the spotlight. He finds that guy, boom, 60 yards downriver, we pick him up. Grab him, throw him in the front of the boat. I tell everybody, please do not move till we organize this boat. Put the anchor out, look around, and it's chaos. Rods everywhere, fish laying on the deck, and this guy's like, hey, my fish is free. Get him in the boat. So now I got 2 fish in the boat, 6 rods laying everywhere, and a fisherman on the front deck. That's a fish story that they'll never forget, believe me. The point is, they went to 43 degrees that night, air temperature. I asked that guy where he launched from. He's a mile and a half upriver. So I get him to the shore, he is shaking violently. So he was all by himself. Had he made it to shore, he's still got a mile or 2 to walk by himself. I'm not sure that gentleman would have made it. So please, take somebody with you if you're going to fish at night. Fishing at night, right when it starts to get dark and bugs are going to get bad, make sure you got a good bug spray. Another example, we're out one night and it's just starting to get dark and it's hot. And one of my guys, he's got sandals on. So he takes a towel and he wraps them around his feet. And I pull out my light rain gear and I'm in shorts and I put my rain gear on my rain jacket. And the guy that's with us looking at us like we're crazy. We didn't tell him. So all of a sudden, he starts getting bit. He's getting bit all over. I give him some bug spray. So the next day he calls us from work. He's like, I can't keep my shoes on. My feet are all bit up. So it's important to cover and have a bug spray out there. You're going to want to wear a headlamp. The best thing to do is have a headlamp that has either green or red. White will give you more visibility for sure, but it's also going to attract the bugs to you. Now let's start talking about the business end of the flatheads. Flatheads are, as we said, any night you got to shot a boat and a 15, 20-pound fish. Last year we had 2 over 30 pounds. My guides had several over 30 pounds as well. So I'm fishing the Team Catfish Thundercat. This is a great rod, 7'6". It's got flexibility and power. So it works great for what we're doing. I'm fishing 65-pound tough line braid. I'm fishing a 7/0 J-hook. I've got a sinker slide. We talked about the egg sinker when we were channel catfishing. This sinker slide will be able to handle, I'm fishing anywhere from 3 to 5 ounces depending on depth and current. I like a disc sinker. It lays flat. It's not going to roll so much in the current. It also, they call it a disc sinker. It's also got a snap on there that makes it easy to snap on your sinker slide. So that's going to be in the water. That bait's going to have some flexibility there. Now, just like we said with the channel cats, we want a sinker bumper to protect that knot. So make sure you're doing that because you got all that weight banging against that knot. Now I go to an 80-pound Dacron leader. This is a business end. Remember I told you that flatheads, they like to get into structure. They'll get under rocks. I can't tell you how many times clients have been hooked up, next thing you know he's under a rock. I'll try to pound this rod, trying to shake that fish, get vibration down there, trying to get him to get out. Many times they don't. I'll put the clicker on, and we just hope eventually that fish comes out on his own. Sometimes he does. Other times he will not. So this is the end, rub it on rocks and stuff. So I go to 80-pound there. When you set the hook on these flatheads, just like with the channel cats, it is important that when you put your rod in a rod holder and you go to get it out, it's critical that you don't get real excited and just grab that rod tip. And this is something I got to get the clients used to. We'll be getting bit. Or on the flatheads, you'll hear this. Can you hear that? The clicker, all right? Fish is taking it. They get real excited. They grab that rod and they pull it out of the rod holder. Look where the rod tip goes. That's pulling the bait from the fish. Just like the channel cats. You pull that up real quick, you're pulling the bait from the fish. So what you want to do is grab that rod, point it towards the fish gingerly. You don't have to get real excited about this. If they were interested enough that they got that clicker going, they're not leaving you. Then you pull that out, take up some slack you want it taut. Lock it into your hip. You don't want that rod tip moving very much. Because if you're doing this kind of stuff, again, you're moving that bait. lock it in and wait. And he's going to be bouncing. And they say, now, now, now. I can't tell you when to set the hook. That's a feel thing. You just got to get used to it, and you're going to miss a couple of fish. But eventually, you'll know when to set the hook. It's important with these flatheads. I told you, they like to come upriver. So when you set the hook with the flathead, it's 2 motions. Backhand at the back of the butt, forearm in the front side, down and up. So when I'm setting the hook on a flathead, I'm serious. I got it taut. I'm going to go like this. It's not this. It's drive that hook home. At the same time, right to the handle. You got to move on those fish. I can't tell you how many times the client goes, I got him. And then they'll say, oh, he's off. And I'll yell, reel, reel, reel. And they'll start reeling. And they'll say, oh, he's back. No, he never left. He was there. He had that bait, and he just started moving upriver. We anchor out the front, and on a windy night, we'll anchor out the back. We had a 30-pounder one night, came up, and he's fighting this fish, came up, past the boat, into the anchor, and back down. Fortunately, we got that fish. But they will take it upriver. Many times as you're getting bit, and we hear that click, 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 and I'll tell them, okay, now get it out. He's fairly interested. And they'll get it out, and they'll be holding it, and they'll say, he left. And I'll tell them, just take up tension. Reel down slowly until you feel pressure. And they'll reel down slowly, they feel that pressure, and like, he's back. No, he was always there. He's just bringing that bait upriver. So you got to stay in contact with that fish. So remember, they will bring that bait upriver on. J-hook, that's how you set the hook on. When you're fishing circle hooks. And if you go down to our booth and you look at the photo albums, you're going to see young men like this one here holding 20, 30-pound flatheads. A lot of times the kids get the big ones. The reason for that is I have them fishing a circle hook. With a circle hook, they're not missing fish. A circle hook is designed that the hook comes up and rotates back towards the shaft. Team Catfish makes a great hook called a double action hook. It's kind of a crossbreed between a J and a circle. Fantastic hook. But when you're fishing a circle hook, if you get excited and you grab that rod and you just pull it up and set the hook, just like that, you're going to pull that circle hook right out of the fish's mouth. A circle hook is designed that you reel and put pressure on them slowly, and that circle hook's going to rotate and it's going to stick that fish. So what happens is, once it gets dark, I like to put the kids down in the lower part of the boat with me, and we've got a rod out each side of the boat. I'm fishing a Koinonia rig, which we'll talk about a little bit. And I have a circle hook there. And all those kids got to do is reel slowly. The rod stays in the rod holder so they can battle these big fish. And the only time we got to lift it out of the rod holder is when we're getting close to the boat. We got to raise the rod to be able to net the fish. So a circle hook works great. And there are times when the clients are just missing too many fish that I'll start to convert the rod as a circle hook. I'd rather fish a J hook because it's more entertaining to be involved in the hook set. And just to feel the power of these fish when you set the hook, it's a unique experience. Now, in snelling a hook, Team Catfish has it on their website to show you how to do this. I'm going to show you something that's very simple to do. I lift 20, 30-pound flatheads in the boat. Sometimes we have a double, we'll be netting one, and I'll need to grab the next one. I'd rather net them all, but there's times when I've got to lift them in the boat by hand. You might want to zoom in on this if you can. So I've got my J-hook, and I've got a line. Always a line through the hook of the eye towards the point of the hook. Simple as that. You got a tag end that if that's real long, it can foul your hook. So you want to pull that back to the bend of the hook. Okay? Now it won't foul the hook. Now what I do is I wrap this 8 times. Who remembers which way the line goes? Through the eye what? Towards the point of the hook. Very good. Pull it tight. That's all it is. Use the same way. Through the eye towards the point, 8 wrap, through the eye towards the point, and you're done. Now, for those of you who want to fish cut bait for these flatheads, you got that snelled hook, just push the line back, ever so slightly. It creates a loop. Put your meat on the hook, put the excess meat in that loop, pull it tight. Now, not only is that meat on the hook, but it's also in the loop. That'll help hold it. Want to try it? Anybody want to try? Don't be embarrassed. Come up afterwards and try that. Flathead, primarily like live bait. But there are times when they'll eat cut bait. So I'm fishing 6 rods, 4 to 6 rods in the back, 2 at the side, sometimes 8 rods. Of those rods, I might have 1 or 2 with cut bait on if we're having a slow night. I might take my sunfish and I might gut it. I might cut the dorsal fin off the back, something to help us scent. We're going to talk about making bait, we call it, or keeping bait, catching bait. Sometimes your bait will die and you only want to eat live bait, throw them in the live well or back in the cooler. Then you can cut them up, take them home, put them in some Team Catfish dead red spray in a plastic bag, throw them in the freezer. Next time you go out, now you've got some cut bait that's already juiced up, ready to go for you. Simple product, simple process, easy to do. So that we covered live bait, we covered dead bait. Hooking the sunfish for live bait. If this is the head of the sunfish and this is the dorsal fin, I want to bring that hook behind the dorsal fin about 1 inch, down into below the spine, about 3/4 of an inch, and bring it through. When you do that, make sure you check your hook. When you come through that fish, many times there's going to be a scale on the point of your hook. Make sure you check it and knock that off so it's easier to drive that hook up. This is another important item that I use in my boat. It's just a regular picture. Can anybody guess what I use this for? What do you think? Young man's got it right on. We've got all this live bait out there and we worked very hard for it. And now I'm not catching fish and I want to move on the outboard. I'm going to put 3/4 of water in here. I'm going to put my sunfish right in there. I can drive to my next spot. You'll see guys out there idling around dragging their baits. That's not good for your bait. Bring them in, let them hang in this cup. It keeps them fresh and works out very well. For you, sir, these are paddles for Team Catfish. Which one would you like? Works well on a sudden impact. There you go. Very smart. I like that. So that's a unique way to keep your bait fresh. You said they're primarily nocturnal, primarily live bait, however they will use cut bait. Any questions on flatheads? Channel cats, I'm sorry.
How big is sunny?
Very good question. How big a bait do you use on the flathead? I don't fish anything smaller than 3 inches, and 3 inches is small bait. I'll fish basically 3 to 8 inches. Sunfish, I use them the most because that's the most prolific thing, easiest for me to catch and use. You can also buy them at tackle stores, but if you can catch your own, it's a lot better to do. Now, sunfish, fallfish, suckers, chubs, those are all good baits. Use them all. Yes, sir. This gentleman was telling me, Virginia was it? Virginia on a pond fishing, he was sitting next to a guy, and he wasn't doing very well, but the guy next to him was killing him, tearing him up. So he asked him what he's using. He told him goldfish. So, and then Jay was telling me that goldfish, if there's enough food available, how big can they grow? They'll grow huge depending on the space they have to grow and the food available. Yes, sir. When we're using live bait, do we use weight? And if so, how much weight? Yes, I use weight. I use it on the sinker slide. And that's somewhat dependent on current and depth. And it's also dependent on how big a bait it is. So it's just something you'll play with. And I fish anywhere from 3 ounces to 5 ounces depending on the current. Yes, sir. Do I use a bobber? Okay. Do I use a bobber? I use what we call the Koinonia rig, which I can discuss with you first, and then we'll talk about slip bobbers, etc. This is a rig that I came up with. I had read it in Fisherman one time about guys were catching flatheads and weren't targeting them, but they were catching them on rattle baits. So I thought, well, if they're having incidental catches on rattle baits, then the rattle is either attracting the fish, but at a minimum, it's not scaring them off. So when we fish catfish in high muddy water, I thought, you know what, it might be a good idea to have an attractor. So I took the hooks off a rattle bait, tied it to my rig, and I used it. And for whatever reason, I couldn't hook a fish and keep it. So I tried a stick bait with rattles in it, and that didn't work. So I tried bobbers with BBs in them, and that didn't work. So after about the third or fourth version, one of our guys was with me, and he's like, when are you going to give up on that? You can't catch a fish on it. I've seen you time and time again. You can get bit, but what good is it if you can't convert the fish? And I said, if I'm getting bit, there's something to this. And I stuck with it. Basically, this is the size bobber I use now. Not very big. I drill the center of it out, so pull the spring and everything out. That gives me a sleeve in there. I have to drill it out so that my 80-pound Dacron will go through it. There is a thin hole there, but it's not big enough for what I want to do. So I drill that out. Then I drill the bobber, and I put 3 BBs in. I've experimented. 3 just seems to be the ticket for me. Then I epoxy it shut. I'm hooking that fish in the back. Every time he tries to right himself, that rattle's going. He moves, the rattle goes. He moves, the rattle goes. You can hook your bait in the lip. And there's some logic to that. The flatheads typically eat the bait head first. So there's some logic there. But I want that bait struggling. I want him throwing off vibration. These fish are down sometimes, 20, 30 feet, sometimes even deeper, and vibration's going to help him find it. So I have a swivel at one end. I've got a bead to protect the knot on the other end. The tag end, where the bait is, where the bobber's going to want to float to that end. Now, we use a sinker bumper on the other ones. Why do you think I would use a bead on this rig versus a sinker bumper if I want to protect the knot? Any guess? I could use a sinker bumper, right? But we were using this to make noise. That bead is going to make noise where the sinker bumper is not. So that's why I use a bead on that. So that is going to help float the bait, and it's going to be an attractor. So there's the use of a bobber. There are other times, particularly with the sudden impact for channel cats, where I'll use that rig with a bobber, so that bobber's just out there floating. If those fish seem to be suspended, I'll use that bobber and just float it out there. I was at work last summer and a guy asked me, he said, hey, I'm going channel cat fishing tomorrow, what do I do? So I explained to him how I rig it up, but the key is that sudden impact. Next night he comes back to work and goes, you almost cost me a rod. I'm like, what do you mean almost cost me a rod? He said, that bait's just too good. It about took my rod to water. I wasn't expecting it to work that fast. So I said, how did you fish it? He said, well, I didn't do what you told me. He said, I put it on a bobber and I just suspended it and I'd throw it out there, it'd go through the current into a slack water pocket and they just hammered it. So there's the use of a bobber. I have yet to use a bobber on flatheads. However, we've caught flatheads in 4 foot of water. So there's no reason why you couldn't suspend that bait in that area. Now some of the articles I've read, and it makes sense, if you're floating a bait, most of the bobbers are not big enough to hold that bait from going underwater. So you're going to have a visibility issue. Also, most of the time in the summertime, I'm fishing at night at flatheads, so that creates another problem. Now, people have taken the noodles for in a swimming pool, and they've cut them, and they've used them, wrapped the line around there, put a straw in them or whatever, and they've used something heavier that'll keep that bait point, they can see it, and then you can put a flasher or something on that. That's a lot of work, but it can be fine-tuned. I just haven't spent the time to do it. So yes, a bobber can be used for that. Any other questions? Yes, sir. No, sir. Do I use the fluorocarbon just for leader? No, I'm using the fluorocarbon as my line. And what I do I could carry extra fluoro in the box as a leader. But what I do is I'll take my line and I'm going to pull this down. Forget I already have this rig on here. Okay, so let's say this is the end of my line. I tie a swivel on there. Now I pull that line out to now my swivel's here. That's the length of my leader. I cut this line. My swivel's in this hand, and now I've got a leader tied on to that line. I just turn around now and tie that swivel back on. So basically my floor compartment becomes my leader material. So I could carry extra leader material in the box, but there's no need to if I do that system. Tie your swivel on, pull out enough for a leader, cut it off, reverse the swivel, tie it on, your leader's already made for it. Just saves a little time. Any other questions? Channel Cats, Flatheads, the Susquehanna River. This is a, I fish all Bass Pro Shops. They're a sponsor of mine. I like to have a 5-to-1 reel. You can fish faster. Basically, until you really get into this, just convert your bass gear. If you've got a rod you're throwing a spare bait on, you're probably already throwing 12 to 14 pound test line anyway. Just use that. I fish these in rod holders. Once we find the channel cats, you don't need a rod holder. The action's going to be that heavy and that fast. You can fish it on a spinning rod or whatever. I just prefer bait casters because they sit in my rod holders better. You can use spinning gear, that's fine. You can use spinning gear on the Thundercats. They have spinning outfits, and you can get bait runner reels, they're called, and they'll release and make a noise. They have them down there at the booth beside us as well, hook, line, and sinker right now. And if you get down there to buy any product, tell me you're at a seminar, I think we're going to give you a 10% discount today for attending the seminar. Any other questions? Catching shad in the Delaware? Unfortunately, I can't help you. I've done it, going down there with shad darts, but I'd recommend you contact a guy down there or a bait store or something like that.
How much you pay for it?
One of the things to become a better fisherman or fisherwoman or a child, I'm going to encourage you to do is keep a log. There is a number, you can call NOAA, 188 number, I can give you that number. You can call them and it's going to give you the river conditions of the river. It's going to say, you know, the river is currently at 4 or 5 with a cubic foot of flow and such, and water temperature is this. Those are things that are important to track. If you go to my website, you can download a log that shows very specific where we fished, what the ramp was, the day we fished, who we fished with, river conditions, barometric pressure, what we caught, lures we used, and in the right-hand column, there's an open space that's in code. There's things in there that I understand that you won't. You guys should create a log. That helps you, for instance, if you haven't been on the water for a month or two, you can call in, get a river stage conditions, and start to formulate a game plan. And then when you get to the river, you have an idea of what you think you want to do, because things change all the time. Now, one thing I'll tell you is don't put the blinders on. Don't look at that log and say this was the conditions, and the last time I had these conditions behind the 3rd pier on the George Wade Bridge, I tore them channel cats up. That's what I'm going to do. That's a good starting point. But again, if you're fishing sudden impact, if you don't have a fish in 10 minutes, things have changed, you better move on and move out. Okay? Another thing you can do is have a network. Get with some fishing buddies where you can share information. Be careful of these blogs. There's a lot of bad information on these blogs. So I don't participate in those at all. But a network of fishing buddies, tackle stores, they're going to be a great source of information. They're going to want you to be successful. Because if you're fishing and you're catching fish, you're going to buy more tackle, more gear, more bait. So they're a great source of information. They're going to steer you straight. So network and share information will be very helpful. Any other questions?
I'm definitely going back down.
Yes, sir. We're using live bait for Flathead, and we're using Team Catfish Sudden Impact for channel cats. I've been down the road of letting shrimp and chicken and all that stuff sit out in the sun, get smelly, get blooded, and it works. Channel cats are a scavenger. They're going to eat everything. I don't have to deal with all that mess anymore. I carry one container. I don't have to refrigerate it. I don't have to worry if it gets too hot. If it gets too hot in the summertime when you're fishing and it wants to come off too quick, put it in a cooler of ice. It'll stiffen it up a little bit. When I'm out here in the winter, keep it in the dash of your truck, let it heat up. But it doesn't take long for it to cool down in the winter. Carry rubber gloves. Take it, pull it out on the paddle we just talked about. Does this young man run? You got a glove, take it with those gloves and just form it around the hook. In the summertime, bigger globs of bait. In the wintertime, smaller globs of bait. A general rule. Okay, we better move on quickly. Now we're going to talk about catching bait. Once again, gear is very important. The little Snoopy rods are fine if you have a white line on it. I like to, next time by. I like to fish this. This is a medium action rod. You don't want to overpower the fish. Any species can be fun to catch, from 3 inches to 2 foot. But if you overpower them, it takes some of the fun out of it. So I like to fish 4-pound test mono. If you're going to fish braid, you want to fish a fluorocarbon leader because the braid is going to be visible to the fish. Two of the things that I see people do wrong many times catching bait, catching panfish, is number 1, too big of a hook, and number 2, too big a bait. Many times people are going to use what they grew up with. They're going to use a number 1 hook, maybe even down to number 8. That's still too big, guys. They're using a night crawler, way too big. If you've got a night crawler on a bait, at some fish, the panfish, you go, they get down to the hook, they're done. They're not going to mess with that big hook. Same, get it down, they got that hook in there, they're done. I'm going to show you what I use. Cast these around. I use a 1/80th ounce, maybe even smaller to a 1/24th ounce. Very, very tiny jig. And you might be thinking, way too small. Let me tell you something. That little jig has caught stripers, largemouth bass, channel cats, smallmouth bass, all forms of suckers, and it'll handle them. The key into landing a big fish is drag control. At our pond, the kids come up and they fish for panfish. We have 8 to 10 pound channel cats in there. If I have the drag adjusted right, they can land that fish. It may take 20 to 30 minutes, but they can land that fish, and they do. So it's a lot of fun. If I'm going to make bait, I am going to stop and I'm going to buy a dozen trout worms, smaller worms. I'm then going to take those worms and I'm going to cut them into 1/2-inch pieces. I only want a bait that's that big. Now remember, fishing this rig and that bait, we caught stripers, largemouth, channel cats, smallmouth bass. You don't need a big bait to catch fish. So you downsize the bait, downsize your hook. Because of the fact I'm using such a small hook and light weight, I need weight to move that line through my bobber. I'm using a slip bobber. A slip bobber is very important. And it's very productive, useful, and can be very adaptable. The slip bobber. Typically, if I'm going to a creek and I want to catch some panfish, first place I'm going to start is underneath the bridge. Typically, underneath the bridge, I might have 4 to 5 foot of water. In that condition, I might want my bait 2 to 3 feet deep. So I slide my bobber stop up. I cast the bait out. Because I have a split shot on it, it's going to allow that bait to pull through my bobber. As it pulls through the bobber, it's going to come up here, it's going to hit the bobber stop. Look where my bait is. Perfect. It's suspended in the water column. We catch some fish in that bridge. Now I want to move downstream. Now the stream's getting shallower. I'm going to take that bobber stop. I'm going to slide it down. I'm in 2 foot of water. I only want that bait at 1 foot. Slide the bobber stop down, cast it out, the bobber slides up, the line goes through the bobber, I'm at 8 inches, fish a foot of water. Go to the next hole, adjust it. So it's very versatile. You can fish all different depths just by using that. If you need to fish 10, 12 feet deep, these bobber stops are designed to come through your eyelet, wrap around your line, and you'll still be able to cast it back out. So it's a great product. Now, unfortunately, when you buy that product, it'll come in a packet like this. Let's go ahead and pass this around so you can see it. So pass that around. Thank you, sir. Now you can buy that. Hook, Line, and Sinker has them down here. Bass Pro Shops. Most of your tackle stores are going to have these for a slip bobber. When you buy them, they're in a pack that I'm passing around here. It's not going to tell you how to use it. So I had to figure it out. I did not know how to use it. Basically what you got, and this will be easier if you come up afterwards and I show you. But this has a wire that comes up, and the wire has a loop on it. Now that loop is where you want to put your line. You run your line through that loop. Then you fold your line back over the loop. So I would be holding this like this, and this would be dangling here. Then I take my thumb, forefinger, however you do it, and you squeeze these forward till it's on the line. Now this happens to come with a bobber stop and a bead. So that is something that you can slide on your line, and that's how you do it then. Gives you that adjustment. And I can show you closer afterwards if you want to see how to use it. Now that we've got our bait, we need to keep it healthy. If you have a pond or a stream where you can keep it and nobody's going to bother it, build yourself a box with a lid, keep that bait in there. That's a great way to keep it. I have a situation where I have a pond. So I got 55-gallon drums, and I'm thinking, well, you put bait in a square tube, they get spooked, you go to them, they swim into the corners, and they're beating themselves up. However, in a tank, I'm figuring they're just going to swim around, stay nice and healthy. And it works great. The problem is, I wasn't smart enough to outthink a raccoon. So one day, I got a guide trip, and I go to get my bait, and my board that I had on top, and my cinder block that I had on top of the board are all shoved over, and I got dead bait all over the dock and all over the place. Raccoon got in there and ate it. Then one time, I had the board there, and I have a hole in it, so sunshine will get in there, and I had a cinder block. But I leave the cinder block away from the hole. Well, one time I go down, and the blue heron had it all eaten. So, if you're going to do that, make sure you got a good lid, which I didn't. But that forced me to develop something else. You run out of bait twice before a guide trip, you better start thinking something else, and I did. So now what I have is I have 2 cooler systems. Basically, it's an igloo cooler. I drilled 2 holes in the top so that my aerator lines can run in there, and I got aerator stoves in the bottom. I have them hooked up to AC so that I just plug it in, and that's going to keep the water oxygenated. Now you're going to have to flush that water at least once a day. I have a well, no big deal. I open up the cooler, open up the drain, put a hose in there, and I let it run for 15-20 minutes, flush it all out, close the lid back up, fill it up with fresh water. It works fantastic. I'll do that once or twice a day. In doing that, I can keep bait up to 2 weeks just by using that cooler system. I know some folks keep them in aquariums in their house. Sounds like too much work to me. So that's a good, easy way to keep bait. Any questions on channel cats, flatheads, catching bait, keeping bait? No questions? Thank you. Okay, before we wrap it up, I'd like to encourage you to do 2 things. Number 1, no matter what your political affiliation is, I want you to support our troops. Think about it. We got men and women who leave their families, leave their spouses, sometimes go overseas, sometimes lose their lives, sometimes lose their limbs. Why? So we have the freedoms we have. We can do shows like this. We can carry guns. We can hunt. I've had the privilege to be in many not many, but numerous third world countries where we go on fishing expeditions. And believe me, there is no better place to be than the United States of America. So please support our troops. Number two, please, if you don't have a child or a grandchild, take a neighborhood kid, get them outdoors. Get them hunting, fishing, camping, riding bikes. I don't care what it is, get them out of the house, get them in the outdoors, get their faces out of the electronics, and let them experience God's creation the way it was meant to be. God created it for us to subdue it. Let's go out and enjoy it. Enjoy it with respect, but enjoy it. My name's Rod Bates. Thank you for your time. Be blessed.